Burger King.
Chapter 2! The scouts had followed the young man to an old empty field that seemed to stretch on for miles and nowhere near any domestic and social life. The man led them all into a large temple, smaller than a castle, but slightly taller than a church. The inside was even more breathtaking than the outside. A long red carpet stretching all the way to an altar about 50 feet from the entrance. The ceiling was so high up that the shadows of the windows made it hard to see. There was also a large stone door with a wired design on it, and soft meditative echoing of spirits singing a strange song.
"Whoa, this place is fabulous,"
said Ertemus. "You could just do so much with it."
"It sure is,"
said Mercury as she rubbed her hand along the floors and walls.
"Feel how smooth this stone is."
Finally, the young man stopped at the altar with his back turned to them all. "Hey, buddy!" asked Tuxedo Mask. "Just who are you, and what is this place?" The young man turned to them all, and they saw the glowing shape of triangles just like the one above the stone door on his hand. He waved his other hand gentility over the glowing triangles, and he transformed into a regular human. He was wearing normal everyday clothes. His ears were round instead of pointy, and his weapons had vanished. "No way!" cried Jupiter.
"It's the same hunky guy I saw at Cherry Hill!"
added Venus. Then he stepped forward. "My name is Link," he said, "but I am also known as the legendary hero of time. I am here because Ganondorf has returned, and he is planning world domination." The scouts all stared at each other in belief that their days as normal teenagers was over. Link then stared at them all awkwardly. "I have trusted you my identity. I shall not betray the trust of your identities." The cats turned to everyone else.
"It's okay. I think we can trust him,"
said Luna. The others hesitated. Then Jupiter stood up. "I think we should," she said. "He told us who he is, so the least we can do is the same thing likewise." Sailor Moon's sweat dropped. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" she said, sounding uncool about this, but the other scouts already changed into their normal street clothes. Even Tuxedo Mask did. "Fine, whatever!" said Sailor Moon, and she transformed too. "I'm Serena, also known as Sailor Moon!" "I am Darien, but I am also known as Tuxedo Mask." "I'm Lita and Sailor Jupiter." "Ray! A.K.A. Sailor Mars!"
"My name is Amy, but I'm also Sailor Mercury."
"And I'm Mina, but also Sailor Venus." Luna and Ertemus introduced themselves, and Link bowed to them as a sign of greeting. "Who are all of you, and why we're seen battling the Wolfos?" he asked. "We are the Sailor Scouts," said Lita. "We protect the planet Earth from evil beings," added Mina. They told him all about their battles with the notorious Queen Beryl and her minion generals, and monsters for the Negaverse. Link felt glad to know that he was not the only type of person with such responsibilities as fighting evil creatures. "There are several questions we need to ask of you," said Ertemus.
"But perhaps we should start with the three most important,"
added Luna. "Yeah! I mean, who is this Ganondorf guy?" asked Serena. "Is he like a kind of sleazeball you're having trouble with or something?"
"What is this place we're standing in?"
asked Amy. "Yeah, and what's that thing glowing on your hand for?" said Lita. Link decided to come clean with them, and he told them the story. "The from you just saw me in was my true state," he said, "for I come from another world." 10,000 years ago, his home planet Lejor was once a proud and prosperous place, until Ganondorf, the King of Thieves, betrayed Hyrule's king and used his vile sources and powers in search of the Sacred Realm. There he would find a powerful relic known as the Triforce, which contained the power of the gods. Princess Zelda, who had met Link during their childhood, always had a suspicion that Ganondorf was up to no good, and begged for his help not to let Ganondorf take the Triforce. Legend had it that whoever possessed the 3 sacred triangles would have any wish they desired come true. This building we stand in is known as the Temple of Time. It was constructed thousands of ages ago by a magical group of sages to protect the entrance to the sacred realm from evil intruders. Link then motioned them all to the large stone wall behind the altar. This large stone is called the Door of Time, and it can never be destroyed ever. It can only be opened with 5 special keys. He explained to him about his ocarina and the mysterious powers it had in the note he played. Then he played the Song of Time, which was in fact the exact same music coming from the temple itself! The others watched in amazement as 3 magical jewels rested into the altar, and the Door of Time opened wide, revealing the chamber inside of it. Link led them all to where the same sword he used in battle rested in a pedestal. The Master Sword! The legendary blade of destruction, and evil's worst nightmare! It was the final key to the sacred realm. Evil ones could never touch it. Only one whom was destined to be the hero of time himself could remove it from the pedestal. But when Link performed the task, he was too young to accept the responsibilities, and he was frozen in the sacred realm for several years, although he did not feel the passage of time. He was awakened by Rauru, the last of the ancient sages, who handed him an ancient medallion of light and warned him that Ganondorf had a slight success in obtaining the Triforce from the Temple of Light. Link went on to explain how Ganondorf could not capture all 3 Triforce parts, as he did not believe in the 3 magical forces of power, wisdom, and courage. The Triforce had separated into 3 separate triangles, and only one part remained in Ganondorf's hand, the one representing what he believed in most: power. The other 2 parts were held by others chosen by destiny, Link himself with courage, and his fiancée, Princess Zelda, wisdom. Ganondorf had become the king of all evil, and changed their world into a horrible nightmare of monsters and darkness. Ganondorf must never get his hands on the last remaining Triforce parts, for if he does, he will become utterly invincible, and the universe will be at great risk. The others all stared in shock to believe such power could even exist.
But what happened to Zelda? Asked Ray. Why is she not here with you?
A sight of sadness appeared on Link's face as he told them everything. After utilizing the power of the new sages, Ganondorf and his minions were defeated, and Ganon was banished to the sacred realm, for if he were destroyed, the Triforce of Power would be lost forever. But using one final trick, Ganon triggered the planet to implode, and all was lost. Except for one thing, his bride-to-be Zelda had only enough power to freeze Link in an ice crystal and cast him out into space.
My planet was destroyed, and my darling Zelda with it, cried Link. And I was left alone, frozen adrift in space for 10,000 years.
That was so emotional, the girls had a few tears to shed.
Man, what a bummer, said Darien. But what's happening now?
Link told them that Ganondorf had returned, and now that he obviously knows of our existence, he will stop at nothing to steal my Triforce of Courage and conquer the Earth.
So it's up to us to stop him, said Lita. First Queen Beryl and now this.
Link stood up. There is but one thing, he said. I have seen your battle methods, and I can already tell that your powers alone will not be strong enough to fend off against Ganondorf's magic. You will all need new and improved powers, and I think that I may be able to help you. He showed them his light medallion, and that it was one of the 6 altogether with the powers of the sages who helped him stop Ganondorf 10,000 years ago. Unfortunately, I don't have them, but I know just where they may be, but it will not be easy. Link first asked the girls only to take a stand on one of the 5 dark panels representing the 5 medallions he was missing, and sure enough, the panels began surrounding the scouts with different colored lights, each light corresponding to the main color of their scout suits. Jupiter, green; Mars, red; Mercury, blue; Venus, orange; Moon, since she wore both blue and red, purple! But that's not all. They also morphed back into their Sailor Scout uniforms, but with new improved shoulder pads, gauntlets, torso armor, and boots! And even presented with new weapons and powers, much like Link's equipment from Hyrule.
Wow! Check out the new suits!
Said Ray. Mina flexed herself into different poses.
This armor so light, I can hardly feel it.
I don't believe it! Link cried. You are all who I've been searching for. The girls didn't know what he meant by that, but guessed that it had something to do with the sages he spoke of. Link told them all when evil rules all, and awakening voice from the sacred realm will call those destined to be sages who dwell in the 5 temples. One of a deep forest, one of a high mountain, one of a vast lake, one in the house of the dead, one of a goddess of sand.
What? You mean there are 5 other temples like this one?
Asked Serena.
Sort of, said Link. But these temples are nothing like shrines or churches. They are, in fact, massive dungeon mazes.
Unbelievable,
said Amy.
And we're supposed to be the guardians of these temples?
Link nodded and told him once long ago that he had tackled these dungeons and awakened a sage from within to help him face evil and collect a corresponding medallion, the same color of the tubes of light.
Now that you've all been granted new weapons and powers, what we must do is locate the 5 temples, where your powers are being channeled from, and purify it so we can stop Ganondorf.
Unfortunately, Link had no idea where the temples were this time. All he knew was that they were scattered about all over Tokyo. Regardless if they were ever to bring Ganon down, they had no choice. Sailor Moon cast a look at Darien.
What about Darien?
She asked.
I mean, how come he doesn't have a temple to look after?
The scouts all began to second the question. It saddened Link to tell them that Darien had no sage destiny within him and therefore could not control a temple.
I am very sorry, Darien, he said, but you will not be able to receive such powers.
Darien did feel rather bad about it, but keeping his cool, he took it as it was.
But at least you can help me make me stronger so I can help battle the monsters we'll end up facing?
He asked. Link nodded.
You all may have received these newfound powers and weapons of mine, but you will first need to learn how to use them, he said. I will help you learn to use them, but I must ask of one thing first.
Ganondorf and his minions were far more powerful and more devious than anything Queen Beryl ever was, meaning everything they faced before would only seem like basic training. Link was never a person to force people against their will. If they didn't want to help him face Ganondorf and his minions, all they had to do was walk away. None of them would be held against their will. But if they decided to help, there would be no turning back. Jupiter stood proudly.
I'm in.
Venus stepped forward.
Me too!
Mercury nodded as a sing she was coming to, and so did Mars.
Are you alright, Sailor Moon?
Luna asked.
You know the right must be done.
Sailor Moon stuttered as she spoke.
Well, I just don't... Whatever you think is best,
she said.
Okay,